Thank you for being on time. I'd like to open this meeting of the Community Redevelopment Board. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Chair McChrystal?
Here.
Vice Chair Moser?
Here.
Board Member DeBerard?
Here.
Board Member James?
Here.
Board Member Laughlin?
Here.
Board Member Manera?
Here.
And Board Member Whalen?
Here.
Thank you. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance to the greatest country in the history of the world. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do I have a motion to approve today's agenda?
Motion to approve?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any public comment on the motion? Got that backwards, didn't I?
Yeah.
Okay. Minutes. I request a motion to approve minutes from the last meeting. Do I have a motion?
I'll move. I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passes. Comments from the public.
Chair, I
Mary,
have
do we
none.
have any blue comment cards?
I have none, Chair.
Anyone in the public wish to speak? Okay. Comments by board member. Come on, people, let's go. You sure? All right.
Actually, I will.
Go ahead.
I just want to say I saw that Helen McBride passed away, and what a great citizen she was to our city and to our county, and she'll be dearly missed.
I agree.
Amen to that. The good news is it wasn't a long and drawn-out thing. I think she had a stroke one day and passed within 3 or 4 days after that. And my neighbor across the street, Mary, texted me and said that the moment she passed is like 9:45 at night, surrounded by all of her family. And Mary was there. I didn't know they were that good of friends, but Mary was there also. And they were all telling stories, family stories. And she passed right then and there in front of everybody. So it was, I guess it's as good as you get. All right. Any more comments from board members?
I'd like to just ask that we could have a moment of prayer for her family, a moment of silence for her family at this time.
Or you could lead us in a prayer,
Let
sir.
us pray.
All right, let's pray.
Father God, in the name of your Son, Jesus, we realize that you are too wise of a God to make mistakes. We know that you know all about it. And so we ask you that you would send your divine comforter, that you might comfort Mary's family, realizing, Lord God, that you have decided to pluck another flower from your beautiful vineyard. And so, God, we give you glory, we give you honor, and we give you praise. What's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Any more? All right, I actually am going to spend some time. I've got a request. Panal, I'm so glad you're here. I'm specifically speaking to you. So, in my mind, this is a brand new board, and I would like, as chair for the next meeting, I would love a presentation that helps us once again understand our role. What is our board's role? Specifically, one, what does the charter say about any and all authority bestowed upon us by the commission? In other words, what does the charter say is our role? Also, I would like you to weed out any language in the comp plan and land development codes that also describe exactly the role and authority of this board. In simple terms, what can we do and cannot do? Also, I would love a big picture view of the state statutes pertaining to CRAs. Specifically, what can we spend money on? Again, I just want you to help this board define our role. Next, please present any and all projects, top 15 will be fine, in the pipeline but not yet in design for the next meeting. In the pipeline but not yet in design. I'm just looking for a starting point so this new board can set priorities. I look forward to working with you, Pinal, to make this board something much different than purely performative and perfunctory. Please keep the entire presentation to under 20 minutes. Our eyes don't need to glaze over. Just hit us with our role, our charter, comp plan, and state-given authority. Then give us the list of projects in the pipeline not yet approved or in design. Again, my goal is for this new board to set those priorities. You good? Do you need a motion for that? Awesome. All right, Pinal. Well, thank you so much. Oh, and by the way, if in your research you find out, yes, this board is purely performative, speak the truth. All right? All right, that's all I have. Action items. Number 2, 400 Southeast Osceola Street rezone to Commercial Planned Unit Development, CPUD, quasi-judicial, and this will require a roll call. Ordinance number 2549-2026, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Stuart, Florida, rezoning a plus or minus 0.45 acre parcel located at 400 Southeast Osceola Street within the Community Redevelopment Area Special District for property legally described as lots 23, 24, and 25, Block 1, Stipman Subdivision, from R3 residential multifamily office zoning designation to commercial planned unit development designation and adding barbershop, you cannot be serious, adding barbershop, beauty salons, and specialty salons as allowable uses, providing for conflict, providing for severability, providing for an effective date, and for other purposes. Do the board members have any ex parte communications to disclose? These are any communications outside of the meeting regarding the matter under consideration.
I do not.
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 I spoke briefly with the development director yesterday about both of these issues. All those giving testimony, please stand, raise your right hand, and be sworn in by our attorney.
Not on this one. Do you affirm that the testimony that you're about to provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yeah.
All right, you may be seated.
Thank you, sir. All right. Staff report. Please
Thank you.
present your testimony, including any evidence and your recommendation regarding this case. Thank you.
Good evening, Chair and board members. For the record, my name is Jody Kugler. I am the Development Director with the City of Stuart. Tonight, I'm presenting agenda item number 2. The applicant Osceola Street Holdings LLC is requesting approval or rezoning from the existing R3 office, multifamily office zoning district to a commercial plan unit development to add barber shop, beauty salons, and specialty salons as allowable uses located at 400 Southeast Osceola Street. The property is also located within the Community Redevelopment Area Special District. Pursuant to the Land Development Code public notice requirements, the applicant, on January 19, 2026, the applicant mailed notices to adjacent property owners within 300 feet of the subject parcel to provide details of the requested development and the date and time of tonight's public hearing. Additionally, a sign was placed on the property with the same information. The .45 acre parcel property is outlined in red and is located at 400 Southeast Osceola Street and is situated at the southeast corner of Osceola Street and Georgia Avenue. The property is zoned currently residential multifamily office, and the future land use is office residential, and it is located again within the CRA district. The applicant, I'm just going to give you a little bit of history of why we're here today with this proposal. Last year, the applicant came to the city and was discussing he has an existing building to add a beauty salon or a specialty salon. It's Dr. Benedetti and his wife are in the audience today. In reviewing the code, it does not allow these type of uses, allowable uses within the R3. Even though across the street there is beauty salons, and across the street a little bit further is nail salons, that are all kind of doing the same thing. However, they are not zoned R3. So during the zoning in progress last year that the city commission were going through, we thought that staff could present that we just do a text amendment in the R3 zoning district to allow anything that's an R3 residential office zoning district use to allow these type of uses as they are consistent within that stretch of land in that stretch of area. However, the City Commission advised the applicant to go through a plan development just to zone this particular site as opposed to put in a text amendment for the entire district. So today, that is why you're being presented this particular application. So these are the three different allowable uses that the applicant is proposing. And it's a beauty salon, beauty salon. It should be a man salon, a hair salon, and a specialty salon. So in your R3, it is consistent, the allowable uses within your zoning districts. What is not consistent is in your neighborhood. These type of uses are not allowed in your neighborhood special districts. Your low density, your commercial, industrial, and marine are not consistent. These are the current allowed uses within the R3. As you can see, the ones highlighted in red and in the yellow, those are ones that would have to go as a conditional use, which we have to be approved by this, be recommended by this board and approved. Oh, it's not moving forward. Oh, I'm sorry.
It's ending up on the screen.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. Hold on one second. Oh. Let me just. Thank you. Okay. I'm just going to kind of go through the slides that you missed. Hold on one second. So this is the notice that was posted on the property, and the proof that they did mail the affidavits out, the letters. This is the subject property outlined in red. And these are the allowable uses that they're asking for. This is the R3 different land use that are allowed. And this is the slide we were up to. I apologize for that. So in the R3 currently today, all these uses are allowed except for the ones that are in highlighted in yellow. Those are conditional use, which would require action by this board and approval by the City Commission. I'm just going to kind of run through these quickly. As you can see, there's no specialty salon or hair salon or any of those type of uses allowed. In the R3, the existing building meets the minimum development standards outlined in red for the professional office. They meet all these requirements for setbacks and land use and the impervious and impervious, the pervious and impervious, and the stories and the number of buildings. The site has an existing 4,100 square foot, one-story commercial building, and the applicant is not proposing any new structures or additions. The parking as existing will adequately support the proposed uses. The city's traffic consultant, Kimley Horn, has reviewed the traffic statement prepared by traffic and mobility consultants from its existing R3 residential multifamily office zoning designation to a commercial planned unit development, and has anticipated that the proposed trip generation potential for the CPUD zoning designation is as follows: 68 trips, daily trips, 14 entering in, 10 existing at the AM peak hours, and 14, which totals 10 entering in and 4 exiting at PM peak hours. As part of the PUD requirements, the applicant is proposing to install and bring up the property for landscaping purposes. The applicant has submitted a landscape plan that shows that they are installing 3 seed grapes, a southern live oak, and 3 sable palms, and the hedge material will consist of red tip cocoa plums, small leaf clusia, crotons, and red exorias, and trinates, and as well as the annual ground covers. Staff has reviewed the proposed petition for the rezone to commercial planned unit development and has determined that they conform to the standards of review outlined in the Land Development Code and are consistent with the comprehensive plan goals, objectives, and policy. And staff is recommending the Community Redevelopment Board forward a recommendation of approval to the City Commission for the proposed rezone to commercial planned unit development for 400 Southeast Osceola Street, ordinance number 2549-2026. This concludes staff's presentation, and the applicant is in the audience if you have any questions.
Thank you, Joey. Does the applicant have a presentation? Okay. Board members, any questions for the petitioner?
I've got some general questions. If there are any objections, what have they been as far as known objections to this change? Anybody have any input on that?
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Could you use your microphone?
Is it on? If there have been any objections that anyone is aware of, what have they been to this rezoning?
If the city received any objections or oppositions, you would have been submitted to this board for this meeting tonight. We did not receive any opposition.
Frank, in your ex parte, did you uncover any possible objections?
So, in my talk with the development director, what I took away from that was no objections, but what was new to me was this is in that area, in that general area, this would not be the first establishment of this type. I believe there's one across the street and 2 doors down or something like that. So we're not doing anything brand new that might upset the apple cart in this area of town. That was one of the reasons I went in to talk with her. So no complaints from anyone. And again, the big thing for me was this is not something new in that area.
Right. The only other question I would have is the density before and the density after the proposed change, residential, is there no change in the residential density, potential usage, potential number of units and square footage for residential?
Chair and board members, right now they're not considering any density because it's considered office. It's a commercial use right now. If they were going to consider a density use or a residential, or to convert this to a residential, they would have to come back to this board and ask permission and go through the application process.
So right now it is not mixed use where they could have a combination of residential and commercial. It's strictly commercial.
It is for a commercial building. However, they don't lose the density for the residential, but if they wanted to have any type of residential, today it's zoned commercial.
Yeah,
and that is the use today. If they wanted to change the use to a residential, even if they're allowed by density requirements, they would still have to come back to this board and go through they would have to amend the CPUD to allow a residential.
I just know some of the earlier CRA situations had involved a combination of commercial and residential, sometimes up top, sometimes behind or whatever. I just didn't know if this was proposed, the proposal included a change in that, or if there's no difference.
Board member, this is a PD to just allow these 3 types of uses.
Thank you.
All right, Jody, any other responses or comments?
No,
No?
staff does not have any comments at this time.
How about the petitioner? Do you wish to rebut anything you've just recently heard? No? Okay, thank you. So,
Chair, I had a question for Joni.
yes, sir.
I was trying to remember. I remember when they came before the board last year. What was the results of their coming? That they're back again? What happened at that particular time?
Board member, that was when this originally came up in our office, and we were going through the zoning in progress. We did recommend that they go to the board and ask the city commission to ask if they can add that in as a text amendment during the zoning in progress, as it would be appropriate at that time. The city commission advised the petition to come back as a planned development. They were not ready to review the whole entire block or the R3 zoning district to allow this use to be opened up for the entire R3 district.
Right. And I remember all they wanted to do was add that in the language.
Yes, sir, and that would be a text amendment typically, but because the city commission felt it was more appropriate to go just for this particular site, do a planning and development.
Thank you.
For the record, City Attorney, I just want to add to that. So they were considering adding language to the R3 zoning district in our code. So that would apply to everybody's R3 that has that zoning district in the city. Whereas when they come back for a commercial CPUD, it's a custom zoning just for that parcel. Does that make sense? So whatever is decided on this parcel only applies to this parcel. It's like a custom zoning district. Okay, whereas R3, it is R3 now, and
Right.
many other people and businesses have R3 zoning district throughout the city. There's several of them, but under the R3, you can't have a beauty salon or a barber shop.
Right. Right.
So under the commercial PUD, it's an allowable use to have those uses. So the big thing is they're wanting to change the use so they can do barber shop and salons, basically. They can't do it under the current zoning district, R3, but they can under a CPUD.
Okay.
And that's the only change, but when they do that, they got to come up to code on other things like the landscape.
And I saw the
Yeah, so I
proposal
saw
with
the
the
landscape
yeah.
plan and traffic and all that. Does that make sense?
Makes sense.
Okay.
Thank you. So I guess the last thing, Mr. Baggett, so if we allow it, it does not change the entire scope, it just changes that particular parcel.
Yeah, when you say scope, the whole neighborhood or other.
Right.
Right, so right now it has an R3 zoning district labeled on that parcel. When they refer to other salons across the street or whatnot, they have a different zoning district. That's why they're allowed to have a salon. So they're trying to change their zoning district to a CPUD, which allows beauty salons and
I
barber
understand.
shops.
Thank you.
And you have to determine whether it fits in the neighborhood is one of the things, and that's why you have evidence that across the street and down the street, that use is already being used by other properties.
Would it open up, I mean, I don't know the density of the area around it. Are there other properties that would be able to apply for the same change?
Well, everybody can go through a rezoning change, just like Dr. Benedetti's doing here.
Right.
But if they had done the text amendment when we were doing the zoning in progress, we were going through the land development code and updating certain codes. And so it came to their attention, should we update this and allow barber shops and salons in all R3s, but there are some neighborhoods that they're just residential. So if you allow barbershops and salons, there might be a residential neighborhood, all of a sudden someone opens up a barbershop in the middle of a residential, and that's what they wanted to avoid. This way, by doing a PUD, it'll only apply to this parcel.
Understood. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, as chair, I'm going to close this hearing. All evidence has been,
Motion to approve?
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second, and this does require a roll call. Clerk, thank you.
I would, we have no public comment. I'm not sure if
Oh, I'm
anybody
sorry,
else-
I'm sorry, yeah. Any public comment for this? Okay. So,
I'll call the roll.
let's call roll, thank you.
Board Member Whalen?
Approve?
Board Member James?
Approved.
Board Member DeBerard?
Approve.
Chair McChrystal?
Yes?
Vice Chair Moser?
Yes.
Board Member Laughlin?
Yes.
And Board Member Monero?
Yes.
All right, motion passes unanimously. Next, item number 3. Avonlea Commercial Corners East Major Amendment to the new Avonlea PUD for Parcel D, Lot 11. Ordinance number 2550-2026, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Stuart, Florida, providing for the Third Amendment of the new Avonlea Planned Unit Development consisting of 12.4 acres zoned residential planned unit development, 16.24 acres zoned commercial planned unit development, and 20.4 acres of wetland upland preserve zone residential planned unit development, being generally located between the Northeast Dixie Highway to the south, land on both sides of Green River Parkway on the west, land on both sides of Cardinal Avenue on the east, and the city boundary to the north for property legally described by Exhibit A attached, amending the commercial plan unit development to provide for the approval of the master parcel site plan for the Avonlea Commercial East Parcel District, East Parcel D, Lot 11, to be identified as Avonlea Commercial Corners East, providing for the approval of the master site off-site infrastructure plan for the entire planned unit development, providing for revised and new development conditions approval for Parcel D, Lot 11, providing for amended and new timetables for development, declaring the plan to be consistent with the city's comprehensive plan, providing directions to the city clerk, providing for repeal of all ordinances and conflict, providing for severability, providing for an effective date, and for other purposes. Here we go. Do the board members have any ex parte communications to disclose?
I do. I met with George Messimer and Ella Stone via Zoom on January 20th.
Thank you.
I do not.
I met with George and Nick, I'm sorry, I don't have the date, via Zoom as well, and then spoke with Nick last week briefly at a school event.
I met with Jody, the development director, briefly yesterday.
I do not.
I do not.
I do not.
All those giving testimony, please stand, raise your right hand, and be sworn in by our attorney.
The testimony that you're about to provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. You may be seated.
Jody, development director, do you have a presentation?
Thank you. Good evening again, Chair and board members. For the record, my name is Jody Kugler, again, the Development Director with the City of Stuart. Tonight, I'm presenting agenda item number 3. The applicant, Avalea Commercial Corners LLC, is requesting approval of a major amendment to the new Avalea PUD for Parcel D, Lot 11. This is one of the final 5 undeveloped parcels within the new Avalea PUD to be developed. The property is also located within the Community Redevelopment Area Special District. Again, pursuant to the Land Development Code, on January 19th, 2026, the applicant did mail the notices within all adjacent property owners within 300 feet of the subject parcel, provided the details of tonight's meeting time, and also put a sign on the property with the same information. The vacant parcel is located at the corner of Northeast Dixie Highway and Cardinal Avenue. The future land use is Neighborhood Special District, and the current zoning is a commercial plan unit development, and the total land acre site is 0.9 acres. And it is located in a CRA. In 2015, the new Avalea PUD was adopted by the City of Stuart Commission. This PUD stated that each site plan for the various parcels within the PUD would constitute a major amendment to the new Avalea PUD, as a 2015 PUD approval established overall densities and intensities, but did not approve site plans on any individual parcels. This proposed major amendment does not increase density or intensity and is consistent with the overall master plan approved in 2015. The 0.9 acre of development area has been established as development area by the master PUD plan and is considered in conjunction with the overall 20 acres of preserve area and that has been established, restored, and protected as part of the PUD. It is important to note that the development acreage is net of wetland setbacks and is memorialized by the conservation easement with South Florida Water Management, the new Avalea PUD plat, and the land use amendment of the preserve areas and setbacks within the conservation from the public utilities. The site proposes the construction of a commercial building on a 0.9 acre site. The proposed one-story building is designed to accommodate a mix of uses, including but not limited to retail, office, and restaurant establishments, and also medical. The Avalea Commercial Corners will serve as the vital component in supporting the new Avalea residential units being developed within the within the residential planning and development, as well as the surrounding areas by providing convenient access to neighbors serving commercial areas. The applicant has provided ADA compliant space based on the proposed office, retail, medical, and personal and restaurant service uses. In addition, the planning and development requires a minimum open space of 25%. The applicant meets and exceeds this requirement by providing 50% of open space. The city's traffic consultant did review this traffic study and does not have any, it meets the minimum standards. The landscape plan includes a diverse mix of canopy and ornamental plantings consisting of Japanese blueberry trees, slash pines, live oaks, and bald cypress. In addition, a variety of palm species are proposed, including European fan palms, short hair old men palms, Alexander palms, royal palms, sable palmettos, and Christmas palms. The city landscape consultant, Kimberly Horn, has reviewed the submittal of the tree disposition and landscape plan and the associated documents. They did make recommendation that during the site plan approval or the site construction plans, that they do adjust some of their plans with the tree disposition plans for the slash pines, and also update the landscape plan to note some of the changes that meet these civil plans. The applicant has incorporated the 4 required architectural elements, which include storefront windows, wood columns with brackets, and awnings. The project is required to add a public art approved by the separate application by this board. The applicant is proposing wall murals and a fountain. And you can see the 4 different elevations of each side of the proposed building. And these are just some conceptual architectural elements that you can see. We did get an inquiry about the elevations and the architectural design, and did send the correspondence to the to the public comment showing the conceptual elevations. Staff has reviewed the proposed petition for the major amendment to the new Avonlea PUD and development plan and determined they conform to the standards of review outlined in the Land Development Code and are consistent with the comprehensive plan goals, objectives, and policy. Staff recommends that this Community Redevelopment Board forward a recommendation of approval of the City Commission for the proposed Avonlea Commercial Corners East Development Site Plan per Ordinance 2550-2026. This concludes staff's presentation. We do have the applicant and the owner of the property in the audience.
Go ahead, sir. Thank you.
Good afternoon. For the record, George Missimer with Kotler and Hearing, here tonight on behalf of the owner and the applicant, and I have been sworn in. No objections to staff's presentation, very thorough. We do have a short presentation with a few slides that we can go over. It's a lot of the same information, so we'll try to keep it short. We are requesting a major PUD amendment for this site plan. It's a little bit of a strange process for this particular development. Avonlea, when it was created, the original approval requires that any site plans coming forward need to be major amendments to the PUD, even though they don't meet the requirements of being a major development. So typically, this is a pretty small site plan. It's less than 7,000 square foot building area, so that would never trigger a public hearing. But specifically because it's within the PUD and there was a prior condition of approval that required any changes, any site plans to come back before the boards. That's why we're here. We meet all development standards. There's no requested waivers or exceptions. We had a great development team and design. There was a few slides in staff's presentation which referenced another property. I just wanted, just for clarity, there was a couple elevations that weren't matching our exact building. We had at one point multiple properties that were coming as one amendment. And through this process, there was still some work to be done on those other pieces. And so we're bringing this one separate first because it's not connected to some of those other properties. So this is by itself. There's a long history of the Avonlea PUD. So Mr. Nick Schroeth is probably more experienced than anyone to be able to provide a little bit of context just for this board, a little background. So I'll leave it to Nick. He'll provide a little bit more context for the overall PUD.
Good evening, board. Nick Schroeth for the record, 623 Palm Street, City of Stuart. I've been sworn in. So the Avonlea PUD in concept was a 50-acre parcel, or became a 50-acre parcel over time. The concept started in 1997 when Frank Waka annexed that land into the city of Stuart. I don't know if everybody knows Frank, but Frank Waka's kind of old name in Jensen. His dad did a bunch of stuff. Frank, you're up there laughing. I'm sure you know Frank. In 2001, Frank developed the Avonlea Commerce Center condominium. And that was kind of the first piece of Avonlea. There's another Avonlea Industrial Park, which was also done by Frank, but unrelated to this 50-acre PUD. And then in 2005, and I wasn't involved in this, but through the years I've gotten my history lesson on it. But the High Group purchased a number of the parcels, either from Frank or in some sort of fashion that involved Frank having a chunk of Avonlea and the High Group having a chunk of Avonlea. They had proposed it as 411 residential units plus 180 commercial residential units, and then somehow fathomed up like 377,000 square feet of commercial going on this 50-acre site. In 2014, so somewhere along the line through the Great Recession, that went into foreclosure with PNC Bank. It was originally Fidelity Federal, and then that got taken over by National City, and then PNC ended up with it. So a lot of pride washed off the deal during those years. And so when we got it, or when we were looking at it, we thought, this is a lot of stuff. There's a lot of wetlands up there that I thought were nice amenities for, what would in the future be some residential and some commercial. And so we actually reduced the RPUD density to 185 units. The total density was reduced from the 411 to the 325. And then Frank was still in control of the CPUD. So he was kind of driving the bus on the uses in the CPUD, and that we ended up with 160 commercial, residential / live work units and about 282,000 square feet of commercial. Now, the way a lot of these kind of overall, what I would call bubble plans tend to work is you kind of have to eat the elephant one bite at a time. So you get an overall zoning that complements the property, similar to the salon, where that zoning is specific only to that property. Avonlea zoning, that Avonlea PUD zoning is specific only to properties in Avonlea. So the idea was to set some borders, set some boundaries, put some bumpers out there on thresholds that can't be exceeded. So the Commerce Center was built. That's about 25,000 square feet, and I think it has 4 or 5 live work units in it. And then in 2015, we approved or the city approved the new Avonlea PUD, which established these lower densities and intensities and kind of set the residential area and the commercial area. This was the original plan. So this is, 411 units plus 180 commercial residential units in the CPUD areas. You can see the residential or the RPUD was kind of centered around these wetland areas that Frank spent a bunch of money restoring these and kind of, he tells the story or told me the story that, there was a time where you could walk from Baker Road all the way south to Dixie across this site because the wetlands and, had been so overgrown with climbing vine and Melaleuca and everything else. And so Frank had gotten in there prior to the property going into foreclosure and cleaned all that up and established the master drainage system. So this is actually the watershed for, I think it's Jensen Estates, which is like north of all that Commerce Center stuff to the northeast of this. And that water all flows through here. It's treated through here as stormwater treatment retention areas before it gets into Haney Creek and then ultimately flows out into Haney Creek. So a lot of this was a restoration of the headwaters of that Haney Creek. Hence these kind of odd parcel shapes, which make it hard to, work development around. But it did in the end, like we developed parcel 2 and parcel 12, and those units all have, real nice views. A lot of them back up to preserve, and they've been, highly sought after. So in my world, that's kind of your measure of success. If people like them and buy them and pay a bunch of money for them, then you've done something right. So what we're kind of left with today, Avonlea Commerce Center has been built. It's 23,700 square feet, and that's inclusive of 5 live work units. Avonlea Parcel 1 has been site plan approved for 9,381 square feet of commercial office, which is about 10,000 square feet less than the PUD approves. Parcel 2 has been developed with 30 townhomes. Parcels 3 through 9 are kind of individual units or lots, and parcel 3 is being improved with a 2,800 square foot office warehouse right now. Parcel 10 is proposed for, it had been proposed for 80 apartments. It's part of the CPUD, so those would be commercial residential units in concept. That is part of, originally our application was part of parcel 10, parcel 11, parcel 13, and parcel 14 and 15. So it was kind of that south side of Avonlea that got caught up, and so we're looking to move forward with parcel 11, which is our approval that we seek tonight, is 6,827 square feet of commercial space, which is about 8,200 square feet less than the max established by the PUD. Parcel 12 is developed with 32 townhomes. Parcel 13 had been proposed as part of that application for 185 apartments. Parcel 14 and 15, again, was part of this original application, and it was going to be kind of a sister parcel to our retail east. We were going to have like a retail west. Part of the confusion on the architecture here is we were going for 2 distinctly different architectural styles. one on the east end of the project and then one on the west end of the project. And so I believe that was also the theme on the apartments, where the east side was going to be a little more modern. The central center area was going to be a little more Key West and Caribbean. And so what we had submitted for the western side was much more of an Anglo-Caribbean design. What we had submitted for and what we're pursuing approval for here tonight is a little more modern. So we can get into that. If you all have any questions, happy to answer them. And then Avonlea Lot 16 has been developed. That was developed by Tim Hernandez, the New Urban Communities. He developed Azul, and so those are that's 69 what I would call townhomes and kind of cottage lots. And then past approvals, this your slide.
It's
Okay.
part of the history. We can skip.
I'll let George get back to it, but happy to answer any questions anybody has.
So again, tonight, it's just requesting approval for Lot 11 site plan, which is the 6,827 square foot commercial building on about 0.9 acres. So in terms of subject location, in case everyone's not familiar, Avonlea is on the north side of the Roosevelt Bridge, just before you enter into Rio. The Lot 11 is located on the eastern end at the intersection of Dixie and Cardinal, just south of Baker Road. Zoning, CPUD, part of Avonlea. It's all consistent with the land development regulations and the PUD in terms of allowed uses. Nick touched on this, but the master plan for Avonlea permits up to 15,000 square feet of building area on this specific parcel. Again, that's kind of a bubble plan where they put out a number of how much could be the maximum through site planning, providing parking, landscape, buffers, all that goes into that design work. It's really not feasible to go more than 7,000 square feet, so that's the reason that there's less than what's approved on the master plan. Here's just a aerial view so you can see how it fits in. You can see some of the other residential parcels that have been developed. This really is one of the first commercial pieces within Avonlea to come forward. We think it's a really good complement to the residential, provide some neighborhood services. We have a mixture of uses proposed in the building, including restaurant, retail, and office. A little bit closer view, again, about just under 7,000 square foot of building area, so very small percentage of the site, extensive open space and landscape area, much more than what's required. I just kind of worked out that way in terms of design of the parking lot and how much hardscape we needed to have to support the facility. So you get a really nice complement to that intersection. It's going to make it look really great. There is existing trees on the site, primarily pines, which are really terrible for relocating. It's virtually impossible unless they're fairly small. So we're saving as many as we can around the perimeter of the site, and then also mitigating on site by planting back new pines, primarily along the boundary of the wetland area to the west of the site. The environmental conditions of the overall PUD are pretty spectacular. If you have any questions, Arnaud is here. You can answer any of them about the environmental conditions out there. But the restoration work that went in years ago, it's really paid off, and it's quite beautiful. Anyone who's driven by it, I'm sure you've noticed. Orientation and circulation of the site. We have one access point, one exit on Cardinal. So there's no driveway on Dixie. So a little bit of a less traffic street, but you have an entrance and an exit. Provide a nice flow of circulation, providing enough parking for the building. Again, all of our land development requirements are being met. There's no waivers or exceptions being requested. From a traffic perspective, as Jody mentioned, there's no comment on the traffic. We're well within the acceptable limits of the surrounding roadways, only adding about 518 trips per day. Again, providing sufficient parking for the proposed mix of use. that didn't line up quite right, but there's you'll see in the rendering, there's a large covered area at the corner providing kind of a nice focal feature at that intersection. The architecture could be considered a little bit more modern, but it's really a complement to the commercial character of the area historically. So we felt that it both blended in with some of what you find a little bit more to the east in Rio, as well as fits in with the overall theming of Avonlea as well. And as we mentioned, there is proposed public art. That'll come forward as a separate application, but we're integrating that art as murals on the building itself, as well as a potential sculpture piece at the corner at the intersection of Dixie and Cardinal. So we haven't fully designed that out yet. We don't know exactly what it is, but we will be coming forward with an application for that as well. Landscaping, we already kind of went over that, but substantially more landscaping that's required. Part of that reason is because of the on-site mitigation, planting back for what we're removing. That really concludes the presentation, so if you have any questions, we're happy to answer them. We appreciate your time.
Do the board members have any question for the applicant?
I do. I know this was probably gone over several times, but just to condense it into what exactly is being suggested, what is the new proposal versus what is existing? And real bullet point, quick term.
Yeah, so we're requesting approval of the site plan for Lot 11. That's it. The approved master plan only included a maximum square footage for what could be built. And so it was approved such that when we came forward with a proposed site plan, we'd have to come back and modify the PUD to establish what was actually going to be built. So we're simply asking for approval of Lot 11 for our 6,827 square foot commercial building.
So prior it was approved for up to 15,000 feet, and you're asking for it to be clarified that you're only going to use about 7,000 feet.
As well as approving the specific site plan, landscape, civil, architecture. There's a confusion with, I think, a resident who had sent in a note. There was an older narrative which described a Florida vernacular architecture of one of the other parcels that was at one point part of this application, which is not part of this application currently. So there was just a confusion. He said, looking at Lot 11, that architecture's not Florida vernacular. No, it's not. So was just a disconnect there. But other than that, we've heard no objections on this development.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I have a quick question. I never got to get my hands on your landscape plan to critique it. You have 79 trees provided. Do you know how many of those are palms versus how many of those are shade trees?
Yeah, very few of them are palms, primarily the royals along the perimeter. All the interior trees are oak trees, and then the pine trees are dotted all along the western boundary. I'd say rough figures, it's probably like an 80% canopy tree versus palms.
Nice.
Okay. And just a comment, I heard bald cypress, and since I've been on this board, I've seen them proposed in a lot of wrong places, and I think we finally are putting them or proposing them in a right place. So happy to see that.
Thank you.
I have two questions. I see you had a coffee, it looked like a coffee shop proposed. Has there been any studies into the viability of that?
So at this point, we've been in this process, I think, 3 years. So I'm a commercial real estate broker by trade. I've been in commercial real estate in this area for over 20 years. We think there's demand for tenants in this area. We think there's demand for, those kind of small shop services. We're willing to, bet moving this project forward on that. But we haven't signed up any tenants. It's kind of premature in the process to do that. We would be, looking to talk to folks once we get a clear understanding of the certainty of our approval site plan, and we start moving into that construction permitting phase. With what's happening in Rio, you're at a signalized corner. it checks a lot of boxes for that, neighborhood retail kind of, use. Probably some office, there's a list of uses in the PUD that are, permitted uses.
So Nick, you think that there will be enough traffic past that area that it would be able to sustain some kind of an operation? Because what I'm getting to is you don't want to have constant like vacant stores. Somebody thinks, I'm going to run a coffee shop, and then finds out it's just not really
Banks
viable.
don't lend us money on stores that are empty, and, I don't, send my kids to college on vacancies. So,
Gotcha.
We build where we think there's demand. We build where we think there's a need. I'd feel a lot better if, I knew that the rest of Avonlea was moving forward, and that was kind of the vision with the, initial application with all, that southern swath of land. It just, got complicated for reasons beyond my control. So, here we are today.
Gotcha. And my second question, I don't know if it applies to Nick or George, but who pays for the art? It sounds like it's a requirement that the city has proposed that you have to have a public art. So who gets stuck with that?
I'd send a dish around the room here, but there's only like 3 people. No, it's I think it's a 1% or 1.5%. I don't know exactly, but that's paid for by the developer. The city has an option that goes into a fund. I don't trust government with my money, so I'd rather put it on my property. What our intention, and we did some public art for the overall Avonlea stuff with some metal sculptures and monuments. But for this particular project, the wall mural I think would bring some life to that corner, and it's not going to be the generic stamp plan that you saw or painting that you saw on the slides. It'll be something a little more local, or I don't know, probably a sailfish drawing for Bonnie.
Okay.
Just kidding.
Thanks.
Please no.
Any other questions, board members?
I just wanted to point out the question on the public art. When Frank asked about what are your job duties and so forth, we're going to come back and explain to you that public art, George indicated they'll have to do a separate application to come to you to have approval of the public art. Public art is the one thing you guys make the final decision on. You're not an advisory. That's the one area that you can, public art comes to you, you are the decision maker. It's no recommendation. Whatever you vote on in approval is it. It doesn't get pushed on to the commission. So I just wanted to point that out to you.
Thanks.
Thank you, sir. I have a question. As I look at that, I'm not looking at a map, but is that pretty swampy to the west-southwest of that exact parcel? Is that
Yeah, that's part of the restored wetland area of Avonlea.
And so I'm assuming that this 0.9 acres is pretty dry before you even get started?
Yeah, there's no wetlands on the 0.9.
So your bald cypress are going on that southwest side?
Yeah, predominantly in the western corner. Just a footnote.
But it is
here.
pretty dry to start with.
Yeah, just a footnote for you. Cypress, when you plant them in wetlands directly in standing water,
You don't want
they
that.
don't grow as well.
Right.
They'll survive, they'll live, but long-term their growth rate is significantly less than if they're near water. So when you plant cypress up a little bit higher from the water table, that's in direct proximity to standing water, they do great.
So ideally, they want the cyclical rise and fall of the water table.
Yeah,
I
to
got
where
you.
they don't have wet feet constantly.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I was going to ask Nick how he really feels about the art, but I think I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. All right, so board members
I
good?
have a couple questions.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
The microphone, please.
Learning on the job here. There was a comment from staff about that this is a net wetland setback situation as determined by South Florida Water Management. There is no variation requested for wetland setback for this parcel, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. It was baked into the overall master plan approval, and that set what this boundary was. So when it was platted, it was
Understood. And then forgive my ignorance on this one, but there was 2 sections that were highlighted, page 56 of the packet we were given. I'm not sure where it is in yours. But it says the following documents are established by ordinance, master parcel plans for Avonlea parcel D, lot 11, it says to be populated at first reading. Are those forthcoming, or?
So those, Sarah, if I may answer, this is Jody for the record. We are just cleaning up the comments for for any type of requirements that's required by the developer to do. Those, one is the public art, and then some of them was the tree mitigation that I had read into the record. So we will we'll populate those recommendations.
Okay, because what I saw was master parcel plan, so it seemed like it was broader than artwork or tree placement.
We are not doing anything to the master plan.
I'm sorry, Ms. I'm having a lot of trouble hearing you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Very muffled.
Oh, okay. Is that better? I'm sorry.
Thank
We are not doing any changes or amendments to the master plan. It is to the master plan, this lot 11.
Okay, so just to be very clear, this number 27 to be populated, there's really nothing that's to be added later.
Correct.
No bait and switch happening here, right?
No,
No.
I mean, the master, there was a point in time where the master parcel plan was going to be amended when 10, 11, 13, 14, and 15 were part of the application. That created some confusion that is probably part of things beyond my control and why just 11 is here. But that lot, the master parcel plan that was approved in 2019, I think,
think was the last,
is
yes.
what will be, and that is what will stay, and that's what we're, moving forward under. We're not changing any of that.
Okay, and then tighter than the master parcel plan, Exhibit D was approved plans and documents. It says the Corners East Parcel D project and use thereof shall comply with the following drawings to be populated at first reading.
I believe that's this site plan.
That's the site
And
plan,
the
yes.
reason I think Jody's saying that that isn't currently populated is if it comes out of this board with a, recommendation to move a tree or to do whatever, then that gets discussed, deliberated, and populated into the final ordinance.
Understood. And my only comment would be that we ask that that be put into the record rather than just a PowerPoint, because I think that's the first time I'm seeing it. It was not part of the packet, or at least it didn't reference it in the documents we had.
Understood.
And then I looked at part of the study done by McKinsey, and I don't know if Arnaud is with McKinsey. I didn't quite.
Arnaud's on environmental, McKinsey's traffic.
Got it. There was a impact fee study that was done in 2012. My only question is if there is a newer impact fee study than 13 years ago. And anybody who's
city-
got an answer, feel free to field that one.
The city would be the ones to initiate impact fee studies, and I mean, that.
No, I'm not asking you to do it. I was just curious if a newer one existed.
So the last impact fee study was done in we adopted it in 2022.
Okay, so
But they're-
the study that was referenced by McKinsey mentioned 2012. So I don't know how much that has changed since then, but I think that is something that would be relevant here.
I'm pretty sure Jody will charge me the impact fees.
Chair Baird, Board Member Baird. So in our impact fees that were done in 2022, a lot of our impact fees were decreased because we are a built-out community. So the impact fees would be less than what was done in 2012.
And this is not so much about fees, but more about the traffic data that was
Yes,
used to
for the
determine.
land uses.
Right. And then finally, it looked like this was started 4 years ago. It was like 2022, I believe, was the initial.
You kind of get
permitting.
numb and lose track of time at some point.
No, and not touching on anything financial or development plans or whatever, but just from a zoning standpoint, has anything changed that would touch on what you're asking for today from the initial filing of this and bringing it here today?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know exactly what that question's geared toward, but, we're happy to be here today, asking for approval, and, we'd like to move forward. And if you want to, meet and chat about, the process and, what other, what might have happened to my co-parcels here, happy to meet with any of the board members or anybody in the public that, would care to talk about it.
My question was more geared toward, in November of 2018-22, it was initially submitted. Was this an impossibility based under the rules at that time, and now something's changed where we can go forward with it? Or was it for other unrelated reasons?
No, so I mean, part of it was probably administratively and procedurally. You had Kev Freeman left, you had, what's her name? Aaron take over. You had that transition into, Jody, and there were a lot of, the goal of the Avonlea PUD was to set boundaries and say, hey, these are the things. Now, Frank was kind of handling the CPUD, and this is part of the CPUD. The parcel 10 was part of the CPUD. Parcel 14 and 15 are part of the CPUD. So particularly related to 10, a lot of questions started coming up, and I'd say being a co-application, or, these several applications trying to come in one, initially they were separate, and then we got, advised to combine them, and then that bogged down the process. So, a little bit of it was, our own self-undoing with, myself, who controls this parcel in 14 and 15, and, kind of having a co-applicant in the process that was having some own, their own changes. Some of it was probably economic. You had, what I would call a recession in 23, 24. And then, the fact of the matter is, there's a lot of, chatter affects the process, right? Like zoning and the process, and, all of that is a little bit of, there's a touch of gray in all of it. So, if that starts getting played in too much, you find yourself taking much more time to get to the finish line.
No, and I understand, and I'm not trying to ask you for the inner machinations of the financial backing of it, but more specifically to parcel 11 with regards to zoning. If this was brought in 22 versus now, nothing has changed.
Correct.
As far as the rules.
Correct.
Perfect.
Okay, thank you. Jody, staff, any other responses or comments?
Staff does not have any further comments.
All right, and petitioner, any other testimony? You good?
All good, sir. Thank you.
All right. I'd like to close the hearing and ask the board to formulate a motion.
I'll move to bring it to a vote.
Have a motion. How about a second?
I'll second.
All right. Any public comment?
Instead of motion to bring it to a vote, we got a motion for approval. Is probably better.
Sorry, motion to vote on the approval for the specific amendment.
I will second.
I have no public comment, Chair.
No public comment? All right. And Mary, I'm seeing this does not recall.
It is a roll call.
It is a
Just
roll
got
call.
missed.
Okay. All right. All right,
Hi,
Mary.
Frank.
Go ahead. That's okay.
Likes the roll call, I think.
Sorry, I am. Okay. Board Member Whalen?
Yes.
Board Member Manera?
Yes.
Board Member James?
Yes.
Board Member Laughlin?
Yes.
Board Member DeBerard?
Yes.
Vice Chair Moser?
Yes.
Chair McChrystal?
Yes. Thank you very much.
Bye, guys.
Staff update. Does staff have any information you'd like to share with this board?
I think that's me. I'm going to cross over and go to the other side of the room.
Oh, all right. Great, Mary.
I'm multitasking. Tuesday had to leave.
Just start bringing Mike.
Now I'll introduce myself as Mary Kindle, the city clerk. There we go, and I think Lee is going to join me.
I had a good friend.
Let's see.
I couldn't even, it was so big, I couldn't email it to my reception credit.
This was a big one, yeah, those traffic sites.
Printed out for us, really.
A lot of dead trees.
I know, right? How do I
120
get
of the
all
300 and change made.
That's true. I
This
could
one?
go and
This
just print out select pages, I guess.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I've had the pleasure of meeting you all, but as you know, Suse is the board secretary, so she's in here with you most of the time, and I don't get to see everyone, so hello. I wanted to kind of go over some public record, just review public records and what that means to you as board members. We're touching on sunshine law. We're also, am I a little too loud? To me, it's echoing. Okay. And then a little bit about financial disclosure. But so feel free, we can communicate back and forth as the presentation goes, but I'll try and make it as clear and simple as possible. So we're going to talk a little bit about what public records are and what applies to you as board members. Elected officials and appointed board members are subject to public record law and the Sunshine Law. So board members are responsible for their records and must provide them if requested. Many of you have already gone through this. We talked about it last year, but for anybody who's new as well, it's not bad to have a refresher as well. We're going to talk about the duty to preserve and not delete your records. Some places allow you to turn in your records as you get them or as you have them, and then you can just take them off of your own devices. We ask that you hold on to them as long as you're a board member, because with every new public records request that comes in, it is the responsibility of the board member to have those records. I can go back in what I've supplied to somebody before, but I can't swear that that's everything. So that has to come from you. We're going to understand what board member responsibilities are at the time of being a board member, as well as when your term expires, and if you're no longer a board member. Okay, what is a public record? A public record is any record made in connection with the transaction of official city business, regardless of its form. So regardless, email, voicemail, text message, social media, all of these things are public records if they are discussing city business or any type of business that may come before you as a board member. And it is the content that is the public record. It's not necessarily where it's kept. So if you have a personal cell phone and somebody is texting you and it's a friend of yours and they're asking about what's going to happen about that Avonlea project, things like that, if you engage in a conversation about this project that comes before the board, that is public record. Yes.
What if you're a recipient of something and you don't respond? Like, for example, the developer wrote and asked for a meeting. I never responded. I wasn't able to schedule it, so I never responded. Does that become a public record? Because there was no back and
Does.
forth?
His correspondence to you does become public record. What's best is for you to either snapshot that, and we were going to go over all those little things, but snapshot that if it's a text. If it's an email, send it to your city-assigned email address. So each one of you, and I'm kind of skipping ahead, but each one of you has received a city-assigned email, and that's to protect you. Any correspondence that goes back and forth, if we get a public records request for your communications on a particular project, we just go right into the email system. We don't have to bother you. It's when it includes more information that you may have in text or a letter, some other form of communication. But sending it all through your email or providing it to us when you have it is helpful. Let's see. Is public records law applicable to you? Yes, like we just discussed, any elected, appointed board members all have to abide by the public records law. It kind of specifies their emails, texts, written communications, public record, and the boards that it applies to. So our city commissioners are all subject to sunshine law and I'll go over that, sorry, I'm skipping ahead. Public records law and CRA, CRB, and LPA. So we just kind of identified that you're legally responsible for the preservation of those records according to Chapter 119, Public Records Law. And it is the legal obligation of you, the holder of the public record, to transfer those records to us upon request. Upon resignation or expiration of your term, then we ask that within 10 days, you submit your public records to me, the city clerk, and I just hold on to your records in case we need them, if we're asked for them, and then at that point, you may be able to delete them. Okay, let's see. So upon appointment, the first one, the green one, does not really apply to you. That is a 4-hour annual ethics training that is required by elected public officials and then CRA board members. So the 2 members of this board that are CRA members, Mr. James and I believe Mr. DeBerard, so this does apply to you. But as a board of the CRB, it's not for everyone. So that is something we would communicate with you when they come up. You can just kind of keep your eye out. You'll probably receive some information from the Florida League of Cities or different, places when they offer these. A lot of times it's in person and sometimes it's online. Go ahead.
Since we went last year, we have to go again this year?
It's every year. It is every year. And they provide you a certificate usually, of completion, and then you submit that certificate and we keep it on file. But then, let's see, all boards are to receive training, and that's kind of what we're doing right now, just making sure everybody's up on it, and if you have any questions about public records, we're here to help. Not only today, Lee and I can answer any questions, but if you think of something after the fact, of course, always reach out. Orientation packet. You guys received an orientation packet from Suse. It should have been an email that included a bunch of attachments. It included a calendar for all of your meetings, the public meetings, including these meetings. I have it over on the other counter. I meant to bring it with me. But if there's anything that I mentioned that you don't have and you want a copy of, just let me know. Also, there's like tools. We provide like helpful tools, which includes email addresses of city employees that you may be in contact with or want to, ask questions of. The bylaws, which are now embedded into the code, and just some helpful information. It provided links to public records law, various things that you would need as a board member. Also, each one of you should have received the ethics guide to the Sunshine Amendment and Code of Ethics Law. It's about I want to say 80-page booklet that I think we try to provide to you in a full booklet, and then there's also a link in the helpful tools. And then, let's see. Also, upon appointment, you were assigned the email address. Has anybody had any trouble with that, or has everybody been able to connect to it and receive email from us with your, okay. Board agendas and of course any correspondence will go through that email address. What they did is they had it roll to a personal email address that you provided as well, because we found when we only supplied a city email address and we expected everybody to go check it, people, you're not used to it, and people were missing emails all the time. So it simply rolls over to your personal email address as well.
That's a big
Yeah, it
plus.
helps, doesn't it? And then we just ask, with that email address, that's a great place for you to, anytime you get correspondence, say an applicant wanted to send you some information on something you're going to be voting on, forward that to the email address. They should be using your city email address, but if they're not, if somehow they got a hold of your personal email, just forward that email. And then same thing with any text messages. We suggest like snapshotting them. Some people have text message software that they can download their text messages. So whatever you have and whatever's easiest. But just try and keep it all in one place. It's helpful. And then that little, in the box is just a suggestion there of maybe a standard response in an email that you receive that you could, simply tell people to email you city business at your city email address. And this is just kind of going through, some of the different things, the way you would receive records and what we suggest you do with them. Just like we already mentioned, text messages, screenshots is what I do. It's a little old-fashioned, but I try not to text city business anyway. We try and keep it at a minimum. It's not recommended, but that way you have a record of it. And then any videos, social media, things like that, anything you can send through that email address is helpful. And like we said at the end, it is the board member's responsibility to keep the records. And then if and when we ever receive a request, then we would come to you and ask you for those records. You don't have to hand them in to me or Suzanne on a monthly basis or anything like that. So you just have them for if ever requested. And then, yes, the difference between what is and is not city business. For the most part, anything you receive, anything you do, just consider it public record. But if you're sitting up there on the dais and you're taking notes for something that you just want to trigger your thought about or remember, later on to look up, then that's not necessarily public record. It's if you convey the information. If you write down or you have a prepared statement and you come in here and you read from that list, that is then a public record and you should provide that to the clerk. Am I missing anything on this? Okay. And then public records requests, just like we said, if somebody makes a request, it's your duty to have the records. We'll come to you if we need anything. So you don't have to be constantly worried, oh my gosh, am I missing a public records request? You're not unless we ask you for it. So, and that's usually, when it comes to public records for boards, it's usually a hot topic that can be quite controversial. And so then people want to start communicating and finding out who you're communicating with and things like that. Otherwise, it's pretty quiet. Let's see. Once a public records request is received, yep, we will reach out for you. We'll remind you about searching all your files and all your records, even social media, things like that. But it's just turning it into the clerk. And then at the time that you resign or your term expires, we just ask that you go through everything and submit it. We would like to collect everything within 10 days. It just makes it nice and clean and easy, and then you're on your way and you don't have to worry about us hounding you for any public records requests that come in. Lee, I don't know if you wanted to mention that if there's failure to turn over records and things like that.
Be covered on the next slide.
Oh.
You want to switch the slide?
Sure.
Before I get into that, I wanted to say that you're probably not going to get a lot of public records requests on your board. But as Mary just mentioned, if a hot topic comes up and it eventually leads into litigation, which it happens, we could have a packed house of people. One of the public hearings, like we didn't have many people other than the applicants here today on these hearings, but in the last year or two, I think there's been a couple that were a very hot topic, and we had a packed room in here, and even the sheriff showed up at one of them and made a statement about his opinion on the development. So stuff like that, we might get a public records request, and then ultimately litigation. And Board Member DeBerard will know that we can get requests for production and subpoenas and litigation. But the public records laws are a little bit more broad than what we can do in Board Member DeBerard. When we practice law, we can make objections for a lot of reasons to avoid trying to produce a bunch of records. But in public records laws, we don't have as many objections per se. And so relevancy is not an objection you can make on public records. So if it's a public record, it's a public record. If something like that comes up and it gets overwhelming, I think our city commissioners get a lot more I know they get a lot more public records requests than our advisory boards. But there is software, one's called iMazing, that's very good at collecting text messages, especially going back a couple of years. As far as the potential criminal liability or exposure that you guys have by being on this board, I wanted to point out some things. If you violate the public records law negligently, it's a criminal infraction or non-criminal infraction, and it could be ordered up to, I think it's $500 fine for that. If you intentionally violate the public records laws, then it can be a misdemeanor and up to $1,000, and also jail time. So that's something that you need to take seriously. You don't want to intentionally violate any of the public records. But there is a difference and a distinction significantly between intentional and non-intentional. Also, you could be removed from the board, and, you know, in your job too, you can be personally sued in a lawsuit. It's probably not likely that someone on the advisory board would be, but definitely the commissioners and other staff members. I'm not immune to it myself. I get threatened with suits personally in my job regularly. There is attorney's fees. So, you know, when they make a public records request and they request a record and we don't respond or produce a record that we have, they can file a lawsuit. They don't get damages against the city. What they do is they get attorney's fees. So they could spend a bunch of hours and rack up a bunch of attorney's fees, and then the court orders us to produce the record, basically. I wanted to talk about a couple of things before you get to the last slide, and especially with social media, and it's not in our slide presentation, but it comes up a lot. So you just need to be careful that when you are posting on social media, everybody does, that, you know, if it is something that's going to come before you as a board, especially, you're going to want, if you feel compelled to comment on a post going on Facebook or one of the other social media, you might want to, I would recommend taking a screenshot and sending it to your email address. And likewise, if someone's asking you a question on Facebook, you might want to forward a screenshot of it, even if you don't respond to it, to your city provided email address, just so that it's there. I wouldn't rely on, you know, people can delete posts and comments under their post on Facebook all the time, and, you know, I don't want you to be liable, whether it's intentionally or not intentionally, for violating the public records laws. And I looked through a couple of cases, and it more had to do with commissioners, but one particular commissioner in Escambia County, he had a Facebook page, and things that were coming up, he would put on his Facebook page and allow people to comment, which is a great tool for politicians to use and getting feedback from the residents. However, he was blocking certain residents from making comments because they disagreed with him. And so a federal judge ruled that that was in violation of you know, the law. So another thing was that same person that was trying to comment on his Facebook page then sent a bunch of public records requests about his social media stuff. And I think there was like 25,000 posts that had to be reviewed by a judge. And so a lot of it was personal because it's on his personal page. So the judge had to still review all these posts to see what was city related and not. So although we might have an argument that certain social media posts are not public, the judge might still read your social media posts. So I just put that out there because there are some recent case law where a federal judge has ruled in that fashion. And of course, a lot of our discussions on public issues and development are being done on Facebook currently. So just wanted to give you a couple of tidbits on that. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Mary.
Yeah, with just a little side note, public records requests. In general, we've many a times received requests for public records of text messages between employees and things like that, and it can happen between board members. And so you kind of have to watch what you say, what you put in writing, because even if it was related to city business, but then it talks about a coworker, another board member, or something like that, and it's not such a nice light, it still is public record and comes to light. So, sure.
Something that's popped in my head, and I probably should say, let's say someone else is posting on social media and two of you are commenting on it, and it's coming up the next meeting. That could be, that could be a sunshine violation because you guys are not supposed to communicate about an agenda item or some issue that's going to come before you outside of our advertised meetings. So this is a new area of law, social media and the Florida sunshine, because it's all new and there's not a lot of case law, very few actually, that interprets what could be a violation. So you just got to be very careful. The sunshine means that you guys deliberate and discuss items in the sunshine, not in the shade. All right, and so anytime two or more of you get together and discuss something, that's a violation of sunshine when it's outside of an advertised meeting here today. So that's why I wanted to point out that someone might be able to argue if you guys are both having a conversation on Facebook on a post that you're communicating about an upcoming vote that, you know, that you have. And so I don't want you guys to fall into that trap, per se. Thanks.
Yeah, I went ahead and skipped one of the slides just so I could bring up the sunshine law slide. It's just basically what Lee said applies to all advisory boards, you as board members. It covers meetings of 2 or more members discussing any board business. Meeting must be open to the public with reasonable notice, which that's why we do it here, and they're recorded and live online. Minutes or records must be maintained, that's our job, and it applies to all formats, whether it's in-person, phone, electronic communication, and, you know, any of the forms of meetings and discussing city business. Does anybody have any questions on sunshine law? Nope. Okay, so I'll
Well,
go.
actually, one question.
Oh, sure.
If I am asked to go through my records and compile public records requests, am I allowed to charge an hourly rate?
You know, yes, if it's, what our policy is 30 minutes. We'll do public record searches and gather up all the information. If it takes more than 30 minutes, we are able to charge the service fee according to Florida statute. And so if it took you more than 30 minutes to gather up your records, I mean, that's more.
I don't think you're going to be able to charge your hourly rate as an attorney,
I don't get to charge my hourly rate, okay.
but yeah, under the law, we would be entitled to.
Okay.
That they would have to pay up front before we would have to go through that process.
And with that being said, we ask when there is a situation of an extraordinary request, we let the board member know, please give us an estimate first. Don't go and do the work because the person may not pay for those records. They might change their mind if it's too exorbitant or, you know. So if that's the case, don't start doing your search and taking care of everything until we give you the go-ahead. But in most cases, it takes less than 30 minutes. So, you know, if it's a small request and we ask you to gather up some text messages or emails, it shouldn't take more than 30 minutes.
We're sharing the money. And if it's on the city email, you don't have to worry about it. They handle all the searches. So that's why it's trying to keep it on the city emails. I don't want to really scare you to death of talking to each other outside of a meeting. It's not my goal, but you just got to be cognizant of it. If you guys are, 2 of you are out in public at lunch, you understand the public's going to assume you're talking about it, even though you might be talking about baseball. You know, in
Perception.
yeah, it's the perception of it that you may just avoid it, you know. But I don't want you to be scared to talk to each other and say, "Hi, Frank." I will. I don't, you know, but just be cognizant of that. People are going to assume you're talking about city business. And with that assumption, just act accordingly, you know.
Can I ask a question about what we're submitting? As CRB board members, is it only discussions, emails, texts about things in the CRB, or is it the entire city of Stuart? Like, if I get a random text message and someone's asking me what's going on with the Bright Line, even though, well, I guess that would be in the CRB. A different example.
That could potentially come before
Okay,
you.
so the traffic calming stuff I've been doing in my neighborhood that's not in the CRB, like all those emails and text
Right.
messages, do I have to gather all of those?
If you're asked for it.
So anything city, not just not just within the CRA?
It's city official business is what, the official city business is what the law says. I mean, it would be arguable that if, it'd be arguable, you know, in a court of law that if someone asked you for some documents about the water department that you have no idea about and not any involvement in, never will, or the police department, I think it would be arguable, but I would obviously forward any such request to us and let us handle responding, obviously.
Okay.
But I don't think that's probably going to come up. You've been on this board for a while. Have you had a public records request since you've been here?
I did.
Okay.
And it took me a long time to put together.
Right. So some of them can be, and if it's a big topic, I have one in my mind where the sheriff came up that was a big issue. We ended up in litigation in that you might have gotten one. So it could happen over this year. We could have a development project come through that's very political.
Okay, thanks.
And I also think if you have those records and you've been communicating with somebody in the city, we would then have those records, from that.
Yeah.
But we could receive a public records request on a topic that will come before the commission that maybe you were involved in. I would say that's public record. So,
Okay. Yeah, I'm just thinking about I've been trying to get traffic calming in my neighborhood, and I just get random text messages from people all the time. And I'm just thinking about how much I need to gather for all of that as well. So on the side of caution, yes, all of it.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, then I'm going to go back here. I just wanted to talk briefly about financial disclosure. It's listed on your application when you apply to be a board member, but all board members on this CRB are required to do a financial disclosure form annual with the Commission on Ethics. And it comes around let's start with the first one here. As new board members, Form 1 is online, and they're asked to fill that out within 30 days. Not necessarily, it does say here appointment, but we talked about how it has to be from the point of being sworn in. We waited to give this presentation till we had a full board, because at the last meeting we didn't. So just so you're aware, Commission on Ethics, financial disclosure, it's just something they ask you to go in, and you do the first one as a new board member. I can send the link around to everyone to your city email. That can make it a little bit easier, so we'll take care of that in the morning. And then by July 1st of every year, that's when you're required to do your regular Form 1. And you want to do that. It's all online now. It used to be a paper form that was submitted to the supervisor of elections, but now it is all online, making it much easier for everyone. And then exiting board members, there's an additional form. Form 1 you still have to do. It's always for the prior year. So what you fill out this year would be for 2025. So for those of you who just became board members in 2026, even if you're not a board member in 2027, you have to fill out the form for 2026. So you're completing the form for the year that you were a board member. And Form 1F is the form that you would do at the time that you leave the board. So if you're no longer a board member, that is a form that you have to complete. We already covered sunshine law. So I just wanted to go over these takeaways. Yes, this board is subject to sunshine law and public records. I think we've discussed that enough. I think everybody's got that one. It is your responsibility to maintain all board business-related records except for emails through your city email address. As I mentioned, we will take care of that if that kind of a request comes in. You will be contacted by the city if there is a request, and we'll let you know exactly what we need from you. Do your best to limit any city-related texts or communication on personal devices. It just is so much easier, but of course, if you do have some, like we said, forward to your city email. And when separation occurs, submit all public records requests or all public records that you have to the city clerk. And that is basically it. Does anybody have any additional questions? We covered everything? All right. I think we're good. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mary.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I'd like to adjourn this meeting right now.
Okay.
Thank you for coming, everybody.
Oh, we are in the shadows again.